So, hello. My name is Shelby Juarez, and this is my senior project for Women's and Gender Studies. Thank you. Okay, so first things first, credit where credit is due. Most of these ideas are not inherently mine. They're drawn from TED Talks, books, songs, movies, talks, discussions, workshops, conferences, and I'm mixing these with my experiences, which have predominantly been in LGBTQ organizations or LGBTQ-focused organizations. So that's kind of what this talk is going to be like. But I do think it's important to recognize that these ideas are not inherently mine. What I'm doing is linking and connecting them. Okay. So, welcome to Word of Mouth. Who am I being, and how is it impacting everyone else? So, about a year ago, I was supposedly going to be graduating, but really had some academic loose ends to tie up. But I was also in the process of looking for an apartment with my friends. I was planning to be in Miami for the next 2 to 3 years and work with the local community organizations that I had already built relationships with. And then I got a call from home. And that call kind of changed a lot of things for me. And I needed to head back up and be close to my family. So I've been away from Stamford, Connecticut, which is where I was born and raised, for about 6 years at this point. I think I had one friend that I knew of when I was returning, and Stamford has changed a lot in that time frame. So from this plan that I had of working with these organizations and living with my friends, I went back to Stamford and was like, okay, well, now what? And so I did what any other person would do, and I said, okay, I know LGBTQ organizations, that's what I specialize in. Let me go look up online before I even head up to Connecticut and see what's out there. And so I did, and I happened to find the Triangle Community Center, which is located in Norwalk, like the city next to where I live. So this was great. Didn't even know this place existed, so that was interesting. And so I went back, and in this year, I have become an intern at the Triangle Community Center. I work as a financial secretary for my dad. Lots of new stuff learning there. A lot. And the most remarkable thing is that I have had the ability to co-found and co-lead this 18 to 100 plus LGBTQ weekly meetup group. What's remarkable about this is that from going here, where I knew a lot of people, to Stamford, where I basically didn't know anyone anymore, we started in October. We now have a core group of about 25 to 30 members. This is predominantly young adults. We don't have that in Miami. Okay. How did I become a part of this? And how were we able to, it's not just me, it's a few other co-leaders too. How are we able to make that happen? And mind you, we have about 20 of those people showing up at a time every Thursday, 7 to 9. Okay. We have a growth rate of about 1 to 2 new members every month. And to be frank, we're really just getting started. We haven't even hit our stride yet. What is it that we have been able to tap into? Why do I think I could replicate it here, right? And what's going on that all of a sudden, like, what's it, 8, 9 months later, I'm now collating this group. We have these young adults who had never before been connected, now coming to meetings, hanging out afterwards, and supporting each other when things go south, and they have, right? What's going on there? So, we gotta go back in time a little bit. Oh, and we're called Yeah. I forgot to mention that. I am somebody. Does anyone recognize this image? Do you recognize it? You can raise your hand. No? Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
This is a scene from the Avengers, and it's basically this man. This man is confronting Loki, who is basically demanded that this crowd kneel before him, and he refuses to. And it takes place in Germany, and so he's saying there are, like, Loki, who's a deity in this universe, basically says there are no men like me.
Loki is. At least I know who Loki is.
And this man says there are always men like you, in reference to Germany's past. So,
for me, this is the most heroic part of the movie, and this man only has 2 lines. I bring this image up because when I was in middle school, I went to 3 different middle schools. The result of that is that I was a very quiet child. I was probably very quiet anyway, but that just kind of had me observing the world a lot more than speaking in it. And in my last middle school, I went to Schofield Bagnet Middle. And there were these 2 boys. One was named David, and one was named Patrick. And every day, Patrick would bully David. Every day. And I never said anything. But I would observe this and I would say, how come nobody says anything? Why won't somebody just say something? It would have been already past halfway the year when suddenly I somehow figured out, hey, Shelby, you're somebody. And what right now you're doing is you're being somebody who's doing nothing. So I decided, okay, I'm going to say something. And my 13-year-old self was like, Patrick, you're so mean. Clearly I had no practice in this. And he then became my bully. And I realized it's a lot harder to get rid of your own bully. But that was the first time that I had thought of myself as somebody who in word and in being and in acting could actually have some sort of significance, right? That I could change the way things were in that classroom. And just to give you a context, my cousin who still lives next door to me was in the same homeroom with me, and she never remembers that we were in the same homeroom. So, like, I was a very quiet kid. Another experience that I had later in high school was, even though I was very quiet and I was always, I was wary of the cool kids because I knew that had influence. I didn't always understand why or how. I found it fascinating, but I knew I was not one of them, and so do not get in their way. And, but somehow in, I think it was junior or senior year, we had Day of Silence. And I'm visibly and openly an LGBTQ person. I connect with the community. And so a teacher of mine said, hey, like, will you go speak to these teachers? They're having like a faculty meeting. And I was like, yeah, sure. And as a high school kid, I was like, how many teachers could there be, really, I walked in and I had never seen the library so full. I was like, where did these teachers come from? Like, I don't understand. And, I thought I was going to be a part of like this panel. No, they didn't show up. It's just me.
Oh, no.
And so I don't do speaking at this point. I don't, and so I just like, well, I have to now. Like, there's no way out. And so I get up on that podium, and simply, all I simply do is I just tell stories about my experiences in high school, being an LGBTQ plus teen. And by the end of it, they're speechless, and I don't understand why. I just told them things that happen. Don't they know these things happen? I don't know. And for the remainder of the week, all these teachers just kept coming up to me saying, like, what can I do? What can I do? And I didn't know. I wasn't about doing. I wasn't even about speaking, right? And so senior year comes by, and I'm starting to enter college. And one of the things I realized, and I bring all this up because it really is, it was a progression that started way earlier and before I was even really conscious of it. But as I'm hitting senior year and as I'm moving forward in college, I realized something. I wanted to be somebody who spoke up and that people listened to. I didn't know how to do that. So I realized there was going to be a lot of things that I was going to have to learn how to do. There was going to be a lot of doing. Well, it turns out, actually, that leadership is actually a lot about being. And you're going to see a lot of that here, which is good because my logistics are terrible. So, did I catch everything? Yes.
I know who that is.
Welcome to Spectrum. Say hello to Christina right there.
Oh, right there.
So, Spectrum is the University of Miami's undergraduate LGBTQ plus student organization. And I have a question or two for you all. Why do people come to Spectrum? Any guesses? Go ahead, Jeremy.
The sense of community.
Okay. What else?
A space where people can openly be like LGBTQ without being potentially harassed or whatever.
Any other guesses?
It's where you belong.
Okay.
I'll second that sense of belonging.
Okay. Stop cheating.
Cheating.
Any other reasons though?
Well, maybe to help create change for the community.
Mm-hmm. That's why I came in. Yeah, absolutely.
To be supportive.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It turns out that people come to Spectrum for a lot of different reasons. The point of that question, though, is that people come to Spectrum because of their reasons, because of themselves. You can put out the information, the flyers, say that there's going to be free food, but at the end of the day, people come to Spectrum for themselves, for their own reasons. Now, this is a different question. Why do people come back? And why do people stay? And no, it's not your programming. Go ahead.
It's because they feel welcomed.
Because of
Okay.
the other people in the room.
Okay, y'all are cheating. That's fine. Yes. The greatest indicator that somebody will come back is if someone actually said, "Hi, what's your name? Tell me something about yourself. Oh, what are you studying?" They actually acknowledge your presence. They want to get to know you. Your personhood has value. From the moment you walk into that door, whether you will be a potential member or not, that's not the point. The point is they want to make you feel welcome. That is the power of Spectrum, right? And, oh, by the way, too, to the level of involvement that people stay involved, that has to do with interests, priorities, time commitments, right? I have had people who have felt welcome, but their priorities are something different. So their way of being involved is that they still check our emails every week, even though they never come to our meetings. Or maybe they have a schedule conflict, right? But they stay involved. What I'm talking about here is connection, right? It is the sense of belonging. And as Brene Brown puts it, right, it's why we're here. When you come, or when you move to a new place, like why was I looking for LGBTQ spaces? I had no friends. I was looking for new people to meet, new friends, right? I wanted a sense of belonging in Connecticut. Well, college is the same thing. Students come here looking for a sense of belonging. They go to get involved in these various different areas to meet people, to feel that they are now a part of this campus, right? And the most successful student organizations know this. The Association of Community Students, right? Every beginning semester, they host this event, which I always forget the name of, but it's basically that if you are a new student or a new person, whatever, and you don't have someone to have lunch with because you're a community student and maybe you don't have a meal plan, come have lunch with us. We can chat, we can get to know each other. You don't have to sit alone. Come, we're friendly. We want to get to know you. And that's how they recruit. They literally say free food, come chat, come chill, and we recognize that you don't want to be alone. Maybe on your first day you really do want to eat a meal with someone, get to know people, right? And it's free food, so. Okay. I have other examples, but I think I'm running over time. So I really like this photo because it's a visual and artistic representation of how when even our members are graduating, we recognize the connection and meaningful relationships that we have developed with them. So that's Christina putting her hand down. Okay. So I mentioned Brene Brown and her talk of the sense of belonging and connection. And I'm going to tie that in with vulnerability in a second. But before I do that, there's something else here that I want to tie in. If you've ever heard of this person, Simon Sinek has done various different talks. And and presentations. And one of the ideas that he conveys is that the inspiring leaders work from the inside out. They work from the fuzziest thing, as he puts it, to the clearest thing. So I'm going to connect that in a sec. But his model and notion is very simple. He goes from why, which can be known also as purpose, right? Belief, values, to how, right? How do you go about achieving that? And what? What specifically are you doing, right, to further that purpose? A good example of this is Spectrum's guiding principles. Now, this is dated by 2 years, so this might not be the updated version, but this is the one I was operating with when I was really looking into these things. As somebody who's not very good at logistics and was not usually concerned with constitutions or rules or stuff like that, I didn't really pay attention to this stuff until I saw this TED Talk. And I realized the importance of really verbally stating and visibly putting out there who we are, what we believe in, especially if we want to attract other people who care and value and believe in the same things that we do. And so this was the guiding principles that I found. You can read through that, but I'm going to move over in a sec to a clear version of it. I found that when I was looking at Spectrum guiding principles, and I also was looking at other mission statements and purpose statements and those kinds of things, that they had a pattern to them, right? They had a name, right, of the organization. Then they also said what they were about, right? So like their why. In the term of the Spectrum, it's to foster pride. And I'm going to get a little bit deeper into that. Through their how, right? All these words, how do they go about that? And for who? People always forget this, but the important part is actually right here. For who are you doing this work? Even in environmental work, right? We live on this planet. People are affected by the environment too. All organizations, all things, at some point in time, are trying to make life better for all of us, right? At the core of purpose is really people, other people. And so it's important to remember that. And so when I looked at, when I looked at this, I saw before all of those words, and I really wanted to pinpoint what it was that Spectrum was doing. And what it was this. The purpose of Spectrum is to foster pride. Why pride? In a community filled and bombarded with shame, pride was powerful. But it's also fuzzy. So how do you do that, right? And what I found it was community and involvement. And what I mean by that is this. Okay. Here is Spectrum, right? When people came in, they would feel welcome. They would now become a part of this community. They had a sense of belonging. But it wouldn't be enough to just be that, okay? Spectrum was also a family, in the sense that people came from varying levels of social development, of having different life experiences, some positive, some negative. But the whole point was, regardless of your strengths or weaknesses, regardless of your past, we were going to treat you like the person that you deserve to be treated, which is somebody who is worthy of love and belonging. And even if you didn't believe that, we were going to treat you that way until you did. What that created was a space where people could be vulnerable. And this is important. Brene Brown talks about how vulnerability is this space, right? And almost this nexus where you have to deal with shame, things that are hard, things that might make you feel like you are unworthy. But she also says this, that it's the birthplace of love, innovation, these positive things, these amazing things. And what we were doing is we were creating a community so full of trust that you trusted us, that you could be your worst self and we would still love you. That you could be at your lowest and we would still love you and we would still be there. So we some innovation flowing real quick, okay? Real quick. So it was not enough to just have community, because guess what? Now these people, right? These people that are creating community, they want to share what they have here. And you gotta let them. They're looking to be involved. And this is where involvement came in. And that meant a lot of different things. It didn't just mean advocacy. That could mean you were interested in support group, or that could be interested you were in education, or you were interested in connecting women's and gender studies with Spectrum more, or whatever that was. But you wanted to share this feeling that you were having with other people. That is where the part of involvement came in. And so that's how I broke it down. Community and involvement. The sense of we're going to take you from where you're at to wherever you want to go. Okay? And then, if you're like, hey, I see this, we're going to say, okay, cool. Run with it. Pilot it. We got your back. No problem. Whew. Okay. Did that. Oh, okay. So now we actually get to leadership. And here's the interesting part. We've been talking about the community, right? Let me switch over to this side for a second. We've been talking about the community, right? Well, here's the deal. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Leadership was responsible for making this space, this community, and keeping it safe, right? Keeping it a place where people could be vulnerable. This is partly where I get the notion of this. We tend to think that leadership is some sort of position, or it's in some sort of inherent power, right? But it's really not. Actually, I found that the higher leadership levels I've gone to, the more responsibility I've had. And the more times I've had to choose, will I take on this responsibility? Because these responsibility was not just tasks. This is why it's important, doing and being, right? This responsibility was also the responsibility of all the people that I was now serving. I know that we have the Butler Center where they talk about the servant leadership, right? Well, that's this. That's literally this, right? I am now beholden to every single one of these people. That's why leadership is a choice, fundamentally. Simon Sinek says there are leaders, and then there are those who lead. You see, the people who would be taking care of this organization would be doing it whether they had a position or not, right? But those would be the people that people would say, hey, run for this. We want you to represent us. Please run. You have our voices and best interests, and we trust you, right? Trust is crucial in any sense of organization like this, because if you have a sense of hierarchy, your leadership, any organization with any sense of hierarchy must have trust. Otherwise, this happens. So let's say this is Spectrum, right? There's Spectrum's leadership. Okay. Let's say this is the United Black Students Organization, another organization at the University of Miami, okay? Your organization, yes, your leadership here might be the ones that are collecting the data and information, right, and voices and feedback of your members. However, if UBS wants to communicate with Spectrum, they're not every single member, let's say I have 50 members, are gonna go communicate to the other 50 members of Spectrum. It is inefficient. We don't do that, we don't have the time, right? So we send Spectrum's leadership, or a representative of Spectrum's leadership, to go talk to UBS's leadership. This works as long as Spectrum's leadership is actually serving Spectrum members, right? And as long as UBS is actually serving UBS members. But when there is no trust, or when there is a breakdown in trust, your leadership is not representing Spectrum. UBS does not know that. So UBS leadership is still going to go contact and talk to Spectrum, and they have no idea that they're really actually not talking to Spectrum. Because Spectrum is not its leadership, okay? Spectrum is its members. Remember? At the core, right? For all members. This is the core of your purpose, right? And then, unfortunately, because this is how it always ends up, the ownership of actually communicating to UBS that, hey, something is going on, there's a breakdown here, we have a crisis, falls on the membership, which is right now hurting. See that happen? Here's how actual, real, powerful leadership works. The members are actually doing the bulk of the work. They're trusted by the leadership, right? The leadership is empowering these members to go out and pilot new ideas. It's not about failure. Try it, see if it works. If it doesn't, try something else, right? At the end of the day, this quote connects to this in the sense that leadership, again, is not about the leader. It really isn't. If you're doing it right, it's actually about everyone else. And they feel like it's them too. When they're doing their stuff, they feel encouraged and empowered, and they feel like they have your back, but they're the ones doing the work, and they're the ones taking ownership, and they're the ones getting it done. And at the end of the day, they feel that they can say they did it themselves, right? Here's your comfort zone. Here's where the magic happens. Every time you do this, every time you get that right, your comfort zone expands. You see this? They become leaders. And they're the ones who are recruiting your new members, simply by just being happy, right? Leadership needs to take care of the people in leadership, and then the people in leadership need to take care of the ones outside, and each go like that. Part of YA's success is not that we immediately went and found 25, 35 members. Part of YA's success is that we understood that in the 7 members we had were our next 14. And our 14, our next 30, 28. I'm not in engineering anymore.
I'm just even thinking it.
Oh boy. Okay, I need a time track. How am I doing? Okay, good. Where's my slide? Woo! I finished the first page. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna move on from here. Yes. There's more slide stuff, but this was the part where there's a lot of whiteboard stuff. I don't know if I'm moving around enough so you can see it. I'm trying.
You're fine.
Okay, cool. I think we've gotten this already, okay? But this is really where being is important. People will look to leadership in terms of making decisions, right? But here's the deal. And I really don't know where I got this quote from. I really wish I did. But the quote is basically, this is one of them, but the quote is basically this. You can speak a great sermon without ever uttering a word, just by who and how you're being. When you have a new member walks in, do you make them a priority? leaders don't just do things, they recognize that how people feel matters. And they take that into account. I really had the privilege to learn this early on. I'm first generation, college and first generation immigrant, I guess, here. My dad is from Guatemala and my mom's from Mexico. And I saw firsthand, they really valued professionals. They would say that all the time. And they really wanted me to know the language, right? And the way they spoke that even was loaded, right? But I saw firsthand how people would treat my dad when they realized that he didn't have a degree, let alone graduate high school, right? But here's the thing, my dad is a master construction builder. He learned everything by doing it. He learned it from the trade up. And yet, that wasn't what people based how they treated him off of. So I quickly learned that your position, your title, even how you looked, how you dressed, didn't tell me about you. What really told me about you was this, how you treated my dad. So translation, how you treated other people. I wanted to see how you treated someone. That's what told me that, right? Not even your resume, not even how well you spoke, no. Okay? And this is why character is important. You cannot get beyond your character. And I'll use myself as an example in a moment. You cannot get beyond your character because this. What you value and what you think and what you believe will be represented in the way you speak, and it will be represented in the way you act. And if there is ever a disconnect in those things, your trust starts to break down. People see the flaw in your character and they cannot trust you. So they cannot be vulnerable around you, they cannot be innovative around you, they will not tell you their ideas. Right? And they'll know if you're coming at leadership because of you, and because what you think is best, or because you want to serve and ask what they think is best for themselves. Right? People have agency. They know what is best for them. And they want to have a part at the table in saying what is. Right? I'm losing train of thought here a little bit, but okay. This is why it's important for leaders to be self-aware. Let's take myself, for example. I have really reached a plateau, and I call it my work. My friends kind of do this when I say my work, okay? But that's what it is. And I have reached a plateau in the sense that my logistics are not very strong. I'm very good at the being part. I got that. I focused on that. And now I'm trying to focus on the doing part, right? The actual goal setting. And, in some senses, character can be like, what do you value? What do you say? What do you do? But sometimes in my case, it's, I truly have the intention that I'm going to call you back, right? I value it. I say I'm going to, but there's this little breakdown in between, and then it doesn't happen. And it's not about intention. It's that I'm not good at logistics. So you can trust me, but you can't trust me to be reliable. And those are two different things, right? And so that's what I'm working on. And so the plateau is this. I might be able to reach, I don't know, let's say that I'm able to reach 20 people. But until I get over this reliability rut, right? Whether it's mental or actual, right? I'm not going to be able to reach the next 40. Right? And if I'm a leader in an organization, guess what? My organization can't grow beyond me either. Or if you have a team, collectively beyond the team. And because everything rises and falls on leadership. I mean, you know that. You've seen that, right? Great leadership comes in, things are going great. They transition, college is a transitory time, they move on, and you restart everything. Right? Gotta get all the contacts again, yes. The self-awareness is important. Treat people as human being. Clock news. I have a great example for it, but if you want to ask me, you can ask me about later questions. Because I have to move on. Okay. Communication and feedback. Oh, I love this one. Okay.
Is that a head?
So, yes, this is a head.
Okay.
Thank you. And that's a head.
With one eye?
No. This is a head with a thought.
Oh!
Okay. These are sound waves. No, I'm sorry. This is expression. We're gonna be, wow, I don't have the word inclusive here. Expression. Here's expression, right? Now everyone speaks verbally, it's fine. And here's the person receiving the thought. Okay. We all think we're good at communication. I don't know about that. I really don't. Because there are actually, the way I break it down, there are 4 steps to this communication. And if at any point there's a mishap while you're instantaneously communicating and probably interrupting each other and somebody else comes in and distracted, you have a breakdown. It didn't get across. And I'm going to give you some really great examples of that. Okay, so that's the idea. If you think like me, I think in abstract. So now I really have to work hard to put it into words that Christina can understand. And then she says, what? And I repeat it because that's what I thought she meant. She said, no, I just don't know what you said. It's not that I didn't hear it. And then the person has to receive it, right? And then hopefully not react, right? And then actually get it. Okay. So let's look at a breakdown in communication. I am currently Spectrum president, right? And I'm sitting down and I'm meeting up with some new friends, and one of them just out of the blue is like, oh yeah, Spectrum, that organization, they only have like 7 or 9 books. I just walked out of there. If you're leadership, you take that stuff personally. What do you mean you walked in and you judged my organization that I spent countless hours on the amount of books I have? Do I even want to know you? / we have more books than that because I know that I've been buying books from the one bookstore in Boston. Are you kidding me? That communication I didn't get about until a year later. Here's what that person was actually saying. I really wish that there were more books in Spectrum. That's what they were actually saying. I didn't get that. Took me about a year. Finally, I saw the person, and I'd been thinking about this because I really am interested in these topics. And I walked up and I said, you know, I buy these books from this one bookstore in Boston. Why don't, next time I go, you suggest me a list? So in my head, I'm like, I'm going to enroll this person. They have a complaint, which is really actually just a golden nugget covered in coal and dust and cobwebs, but it's there, right? And then you have to be accountable, right? What you say is got to match your actions, right? Character. So I go up there, I text the person, send me the list, and they only have like 1 or 2 of the books, but I make sure to buy them. And I come back and I make sure to tell them that they're in the library. And it's not like that person changes their mind all of a sudden about Spectrum, but all of a sudden it's not a negative perspective, right? Now they know that if they have feedback, they can tell me. I'm going to get it, and I'm going to do something about it. And, yeah, no, I forgot my second thought. But, yeah, so, ooh, this is a good one. So you have an e-board that's standing in front of you, your brand new e-board at the beginning of the school year, and you have all your new, you know this one, you have all your new members out there, and you're like, hey, you're silly, you're goofy, like, hey, we really want to get to know you, and if you have any ideas, feel free to let us know, we want to know. And 2-3 weeks go by and crickets. No one says anything to you. But who are they talking to? Who are they telling their ideas to?
Each other.
Each other. Why?
No one ever talks to the leaders.
Right, no one talks to leaders. Okay, I don't understand why this happens, but it happens everywhere. Turns out that when you say, because this would be too efficient, when you say, hey, we want to know your ideas, people don't believe you. And if they do, they're like, yeah, but then you might think it's a stupid idea. So I don't really want to put myself out there. No, I found out you got to do this. You actually have to go, as inefficient as it is, right? Because actually with people, you have to be effective, right? You have to go to them, and you've got a team, so split them up, right? You got to go to them and say, hey, what did you think about this? Don't react negatively. What did you think about this? And sometimes people only know how to complain. If you watch it, actually, it's interesting. Your freshmen will be the ones who complain the most, usually because they haven't had as much experience programming. They'll complain the most, but then as they get older, their feedback will be a lot more constructive. They'll actually even come up with alternatives for you. You don't even have to ask them. They'll just come to you. They'll know. So you have to go to them. Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. But now, you don't have to go to them anymore. They're going to come to you. Okay. But if you don't catch that, you're going to spend a whole semester with wasted ideas, right? And, I don't have it up here anymore, but your members that are creating ideas and stuff, they're the way that new people come in, so you're missing out on members too, right? Okay, and, this is quick. Whew. All feedback, this is too big, but all feedback can easily fall on this. Scale. Which one, okay, this is specific, this is vague, this is negative, this is positive. Which of these feedbacks, which of these corners am I trying to get to?
Positive, specific.
No.
Specific.
I'm an engineer, so obviously
Wait,
that one.
Negative,
Oh,
specific.
negative specific.
Negative,
No.
specific. No.
Positive and vague.
It's specific.
Wait, what?
That's not a corner.
Oh, good one.
I said a corner. Specific. Why? I really hated that drag show. Oh, what didn't work for you? That carpet should not have been red. I don't know. Should not have been red. Oh, negative feedback just became specific. You bet I'm not going to have a red carpet next year. Okay, now I'm going to be accountable to it, right? They know I'm listening. They know I'm serving them. Let's take another example, positive. Marriages on the Rock was amazing. Those ring pops, man, I would just go for those. Okay, great. Making that specific. Awesome. Vague. Yeah, I don't know how I was feeling about that event. Oh, what parts had you kind of weird? Help them out. Sometimes they don't know. Sometimes I'll bet I don't know why I'm upset yet, right? Okay. The point is to move to the specific. Because then that's actionable, you can do something about it, right? And if they don't know at the time, come back to them. Make them feel like you actually care, right? Okay. Diversity. There's this really great movie called Ghost in the Shell. The premise is that it's in the future, and people have all these cybernetic parts, and so crime has also become more complicated. And so there's this unit called Section 9, and Section 9 is headed by the Major. And this is a dialogue between the Major, who is in white, and the rookie, right, the brand new person. And this exchange, really reminded me of biology. One, because it talks about it, but this is directly applicable to any organization or any group. I find that the organizations on this campus, but also the organizations and community organizations, in Miami and in Stanford, would often hit this limit point based on their diversity. And what that was is that I don't think new members, could see themselves in leadership. They didn't physically see a space for them. They didn't see a vertical, a place for them at the table. There was no up for them. It was that they couldn't see themselves in the organization, because obviously leadership is your more visible point just because of logistics, right? And so I realized that this wasn't working, because if you have the same kinds of people from the same kinds of backgrounds with the same perspective coming in, you're doing the same things and you're not getting different members. So it's this vicious cycle, right? And this movie, it touches upon a lot of things, but this is the first time I thought about it. in this way where it's like, yeah, like an organism, like you do, like you will stay the same and you won't change with the times and you won't be able to adapt as quickly. Ender's Game is another really great, which is a book, is a really great example of this. In Ender's Game, it's basically brilliant, genius children, and they are in this like military commander school, and they're being trained to fight against this alien force. But while in the school, the teachers technically are like the enemy. They don't see it that way. They pit them against each other, the commanding teams and whatnot. And so Ender is this commander who comes in, and the first time he has an army who is completely untrained, doesn't know anything, they're coming from all these different sectors, he walks up, and this person who had been bullying him like all his life says, "Why are we even here?" And Ender just replies simply, "On purpose," right? I don't mean like on purpose, I mean like on purpose as in why, beliefs, values, this thing that we were just talking about with Simon Sinek. And he responds, "I don't know why any of you all are here, but I know why I'm here. I intend to make this team the winning commanding team of this whole Army military school. And I think that you are a part of that. Do you think I'm wrong?" Immediately enrolls this person. And the person's like, "No, sir, you're not." Right? And his next statement is this: "If anyone has a better idea than me, let me know. I cannot be expected to do all the thinking here." You know this? Yes. I cannot be expected to do all the thinking here. It won't work. You have to tell me your ideas. And then there's actually one person he designates to say, "Anything that you think is crazy or like won't work, I want you to try it out. You are a designated, basically, maverick. You, like, when all else fails, you are the person that nobody will know, not even us, what you're doing. But because we have developed state of trust, right, it'll work out." Okay. So that's a touch upon diversity. I'm just moving quicker because I'm running out of time. Reinventing the wheel. Oh, transition, college. Oh yes. New members come in. They often think they can do things better. I don't think this is necessarily a wrong statement. Old members are leaving, think we should do things the way we've always done, and there's inevitably a conflict that kind of happens, right? I have found actually that as an older member, my job is not, or when I was, right? My job was not actually to tell you how I did things or how the right way to do things were. My job was to say, hey buddy, there's a hole over there, just so you know. I fell in it last time, so I just don't want you to fall in it, so I'm just going to mention that there's a hole there. Now that hole might be, hey, if it rains like it does a lot in Miami, you might want a backup plan or backup location to your outside venue, right? And then and that's it, right? And then they have a choice. They can continue to walk towards the hole and fall in it, right? They can choose, or more choice, right? They can choose to go around it, or they can say, hey, actually, I've got a good idea. I'm going to put this plank of wood over it, and I'm just going to cross it. And I'll be like, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, that's great, cool, awesome. But if they fall in it, my job is also not to tell them, hey, I told you so. You didn't have to fall in the hole. No, my job is to walk up, pull them up, dust them up, and say, hey, it's all good, you're good. What do you want to do now? Okay? Guess what? That person, anytime they're in trouble, they're going to come to me. And I'm going to hear their ideas first. That's nice. Moving forward. Okay, goals. So obviously I'm working Poor Kashi, she would have loved this. I'm working on goals, okay, because goals actually are a way to get better at logistics, right? They are a way to take your purpose, your why, and to make them great whats. Christina is great at whats and hows. She has a little bit of a hard time with whys. I'm great at whys. I don't know how to make them actionable, but hey, I can help you out with your why, no problem. And so there's this app, and I'm always hesitant against technology, and Christina loves technology, and she's like, listen, get this momentum app, it's got pretty photos, And here's what got me. It's got very nice quotes. They're inspiring. And I said, okay. And so I did. And so one day she's like, oh, like, what's your goals? What you put on your goals? And so this is an example of her goals and my goals. So Christina just said, those are not goals, Shelby. Those are not goals. And to me, like, no, those are goals. Look, each day you wake up and ask yourself, what will make you feel most alive that day? So I'm gonna, like, I wanna living breaths, like every breath I take, I wanna feel that I'm alive, and I wanna focus on wellness today. And she's like, that's not a goal. So this is what I've been practicing. This is what my goals look like now. This is being most important goal right now. Okay. And what I've found is this. In the law school, they make all student organizations create this strategic plan before they give them funding, right? Good incentive. And they do this because organizations do better, right? Doing more service is not a goal. That can be a purpose, right? That could even be a means to something even deeper, but it's not a goal. We want to do a service day in collaboration with, I don't know, I'm just going to say Gandhi Day with the undergraduate students, and we want to reach a goal of 25 people, and we want 2 site leaders. That's a goal. You can measure it. There's a time, there's a deadline, okay? Now you need to assign people to it. Okay, so some quick bits. Anybody equals nobody, okay? Whenever equals never. Yes, okay, good. And deadlines are important because people like me, we just kind of float around, and then the deadline comes and, oh my gosh, I have to get this done, and then I get it done. But if there was no deadline, don't know if it's going to get done. So that is both for logistics, but also your members, they need structure, right? Particularly when they're first coming in, first doing their programming, give them parameters. Say, hey, this is what you have, this is your space. Show me what you can do in it. Let them show you. If they need some more, feel free to have them ask you. Okay, cool, I'll give you this a little bit more, show me what you can do with it. Help them succeed. Next time, you can give them something bigger. Bigger and bigger. Soon enough, they'll be assigning stuff to other people. Before I keep going. Okay. So does anyone want to know how we got Ya to be so prominent in such a short amount of time? We put it in the name. Ya stands for, yes, everyone's accepted here. We put that into action. We said this is for 18 and 100 plus. We were breaking off from a group of youth, so that's why otherwise I literally would have everyone, right? I'm a little more, I want to say radical, right? But I'm going to say inclusive in that sense. 18 to 100 plus, I want age groups to mix. If you notice in Miami, there are a lot of divisions between the ages in the community organizations, right? And yet people don't want that. They want a sense of community. They want to break through these things, and they have trouble with it, right? We put it on paper in our mission statement. We said, this is who we are. Then, right, we said, we might not have a lot going for us, but we're going to tell you this. We're going to be there every Thursday, 7 to 9. Whether you come or not, we're here for you. That's what we did. Consistent. People don't always have consistency in their lives, particularly in the LGBTQ plus community. And a little bit further than that too, hey, because we're consistent, if you need help with something, like you need accessibility or a ride, let us know, and we'll try and make it work out. Right? We've got people established that come every Thursday from different places. Maybe we can make it happen for you. College students. No one effectively uses college students, okay? And here's the thing, you have to make it easy for them, right? College students, their job is being a student, right? That is a full-time job. If they're, I shouldn't say that, right? But like, it can be a full-time job if you do it effectively, okay? So here's what I did. I said, I noticed that Miami-Dade and FIU are really great about being a part of the community. UM, not so much. Maybe because of the geography, landscape, the way it's set up and where it physically is. Okay. So I said, hey, I wanted to focus on young adult. It's it's 18 and plus, but I wanted to start there and then move up, right? So I said, hey, why don't I just go to the UConn, University of Connecticut, Stanford branch? You know what? I'm just gonna walk in. I'm sure there's a flyer or something, or maybe there's even an office. Turns out there is. And maybe they have a student group or somehow affiliate. Yes, they do. And I'm just gonna invite them. And you know what? You know, I have to have a relationship with them, so I should probably go to their events too and get to know them. So that why would they actually randomly trust this person and go to this event, right? No, let me get to know you. Let me have you get to know. So we brought in the college students, big time, all of them. And then we said, okay, we recognize who we are being as leaders and that we're being intentional. But who is our organization? And yeah, being in the community. So we started going to community events and organizations and getting to know them, right? We're not going to wait for you to walk through our door. We want to get to know you, right, as a person. And also, what about the organizations that you're a part of? And this is important, hangouts after meeting, because that's where the real conversations happen, right? Conversations happen amongst friends, not leadership to member, right? So we hang out afterward. We hang out even beyond that. And as leaders, we're in there sometimes and sometimes we're not, right? Members can, you know, do their own thing too. And yeah, I'll end with this. It is not the critic who counts. Not the man, this is very gendered, I apologize, I try to find something better. Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat. I don't know what kind of person I would be or where I would be if at some point in my head it didn't click that way back when in 8th grade, I was somebody. I don't know. And that is both fascinating and scary. But I'm very glad that I recognized my agency and I took that, and that I've had the opportunity to be a part of organizations and student and community, right, and groups that help people find their own voice and their own agency, even when they didn't even believe in themselves. So, with that being said, thank you for coming to my talk. I have gone overboard, so if you don't want to have questions or comments, that's fine, but I'll be here if you do. These are sources of mine. I'm going to try and go